Hey, this is Mitch Russo, author of Power Tribes, founder of Client Folio, and can be reached at mitchrusso360.com. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should listen to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson. We're at episode 292 with a gentleman who I absolutely respect immensely, Mitch Russo. He's another giant that I metaphorically have stood on his shoulders to level my life up. I'm not directly mentored by Mitch or coached by Mitch, but I devour everything that Mitch puts out there, all his content, his books, and I also utilize his Client Folio contact record management, or CRM, for my coaching clients. He's somebody that, again, that I respect immensely. He's built 7-figure businesses. He has partnered with Tony Robbins, Chet Holmes, the who's who, and he's just somebody that is going to drop some serious knowledge nuggets on you. And so I would really break out your notebooks, because get ready. Here comes my really good friend, Mitch Russo. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I'm just going to go out and just say he's a legend, man. And I'll probably get a smile out of him because he's a super humble cat. But this gentleman, Mitch Russo, he's actually kind of a neighbor. He's about 40 miles south here in South Florida, a neighbor of mine, and we're enjoying and soaking up our sunshine and dodging the rain clouds and whatnot. But I'm just so blessed to have, Mitch Russo on. He started a software company in his garage, sold it for 8 figures. That's 8 figures, okay, squad. And then went on to build a company to over 25 million with none other than TR himself, Tony Robbins, and also the awesome sauce, Chet Holmes. He was nominated twice for Inc. Magazine Entrepreneur of the Year, Mitch's book, Power of Tribes, which I'll have a giveaway at the end, so make sure you listen. Its house certification can explode your business, has helped thousands create huge new business divisions using high-performance certification programs. Chet is a genius at helping you build, scale, and just level up every part of your business. Not only that, he's an awesome human being, okay? And he also has a program called Client Folio, which I am an affiliate of, and it's for coaches to be able to, it's a contact management system for coaches to really help them level up, keep in touch, and just make sure your clients are really taken care of. But without further ado, I'm going to bring Mitch on. Mitch, please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is gold.
Really? You are the first over 500 interviews that's ever said gold. Why gold? I got to get an idea, but why gold?
Well, I can't explain I'm sure there's some symbolism around it, but I mean, if you look at my screen, I'm sitting behind a huge gold stripe.
Yes, you are.
My name is in gold. Gold is probably the oldest form and most trusted currency in the world.
It is.
And it conveys power. And I am comfortable with gold and in gold environments. So gold for me has to be my favorite color.
I love it. And we're old enough to remember The Outsiders, the book The Outsiders with Pony Boy Curtis. Remember Stay Gold, Pony Boy? Oh, yeah. I love that. One of my favorite books growing up, and also a fantastic movie with the Brat Pack. So Mitch, Let's get into maybe the origins a little bit of this garage story and how you really leveled up. You've spoken in front of thousands of people. You're a best-selling author. Let's hear a little bit about that journey, please.
Sure. The only problem is I think you told me I only had 30 minutes, but I'll make it fast.
For you, we might go long, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, I'll do my best to keep it short, but very interesting, I hope. Here's basically what happened. I was in the semiconductor business as a salesperson. I was killing it. I was making more money than I could dream of making as a salesperson. And then all of a sudden, the industry went into its very famous and traditional cyclic downfalls. Sure. So what I decided at that point is that I had a little bit of runway left. I was going to figure out a way to start a business. So Scott, what I did is I wrote down one night, I sat down, wrote up, I had 5 ideas for businesses. And I said, well, which one am I going to choose? He said, screw it. I'm going to start them all. It's sort of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, and I have some very funny stories about some of the people I ended up starting these businesses with.
Sure.
But the bottom line is that one of I would say the long haul back contenders was this tiny little software company that I had talked about over breakfast with my next door neighbor. And that became a two breakfast conversation, and then a breakfast, lunch, and dinner conversation in the same week. And then next thing you know, we're meeting every night and we're talking about this thing until finally I said, you want to start a company? and I'm old enough, even then I was old enough to know that, look, if you don't put any money in, if you don't pay, you don't pay attention. So let's put some money in. Let's get a contract. Let's define our roles and let's do this right. And so, Scott, what we did is we opened up a bank at the we opened up a bank account at the Beverly National Bank for $10,000, $5,000 each, and introduced ourselves to the bank president, said, we're going to be your largest depositor in the next few years. And he said, great, welcome, come on in. And we started. So we worked on this Stealth Skunk Works project for 6 months. And then finally, I said to my partner, I said, I think we're ready. We have the documentation. We've tested it. It's working. It's good. Let's go. So we both quit our jobs.
Wow.
Friday, we quit our jobs. Monday morning, he shows up in my little garage and says, okay, we're in business. What do we do? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to keep doing what I was doing. I'm not sure. I mean, look, I guess I'll write some press releases and do some. Anyway, about 2 hours later, the phone rang. It was my accountant. He said, Mitch, I got bad news. What's the news? He goes, unfortunately, that product that you've been building has just been made completely worthless by the IRS. I said, what? He goes, yep. IRS says you no longer need to keep track of time on a computer in order to deduct it from your taxes. So sorry, my friend, but that product has no value anymore.
Ooh, okay.
So here we burned the boats. We're on the island and it's smoldering out in the sea while we are standing there, mouth open, going, what the hell do we do now? And so at that point, we, besides getting pretty upset, throwing some stuff around the apartment, around the room, we brainstormed and we said, who else needs what we just created? What do we have to do to change this? Maybe 50% or 30% or 80% to get to where we think there might be a better market. And I don't recommend doing it the way we did because in effect, we got lucky. So we said, you know what? Lawyers need this. Accountants need this. Anybody who needs to keep track of time. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So we then went 3 more months back into development, threw away the manual, started over, writing the manual, doing the testing, all from the beginning. And then finally, we were ready on the day of Comdex 1985.
Wow.
And Comdex, I flew out to Las Vegas with 2 suitcases filled with shrink-wrapped copies of our software and a little bit of clothing. And I spent 12 days walking the floor, 1 million square feet, looking for people I could potentially put together joint ventures with. I handed out 100 copies of software over those 12 days. I had no idea. I felt like I came home with no results. But the bottom line is that we had handed a copy without me realizing it to one of the top reviewers at InfoWorld magazine. So InfoWorld called us 6 months, 5 months later and says, by the way, we're doing a fact check call. I want to make sure your phone number is right, your address is right, name of the software is right, blah, blah, blah. I said, why are we being reviewed in InfoWorld? They go, yep. I said, when? They go, can't tell you. Well, you don't understand, Scott. InfoWorld was make or break.
Yeah. Yeah.
People would get good reviews in InfoWorld and go out of business. If you didn't get a great review in InfoWorld, your life was over.
Wow.
So now we're terrified. We don't have no idea what's going to happen. And then one morning, about 3 weeks later, I'm laying in bed and I hear our phone ringing downstairs in the garage. Not one, 6 phones start ringing at the same time.
Wow.
So I run downstairs. It's winter. It's like November and I'm freezing. I don't care. I'm in the garage and I'm picking up these phones. Hello, Time Slips Corporation. Yes, I'd like to place an order, please. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing for 3 hours without stop until somebody shows up to help me. And I'm still literally in my bathrobe.
Wow.
Well,
Oh,
we went that day from selling 6 copies a week to 600 copies a week of Time Slips.
Wow. What was the name of the product again?
Time Slips.
Time Slips. Okay. Yep. Wow.
And so that's how we started. And from that point forward, we were doubling the company in size about every 18 months. We got to the point where we were selling so much software that we couldn't even support all the customers that we were signing on, which is why I created a way to support customers that were not my employees. Those people became my Time Slips certified consultants.
Wow.
And that began the process of this book that I wrote about called Time Slips, Power Tribes. So Power Tribes is the story of how I created a network of 350 certified consultants, became my 3rd largest sales force, dropped $1 million in cash to my bottom line in 1987 rather. I mean, this was an amazing thing that I stumbled upon and perfected, and I've since done that over and over again for clients all over the world.
So InfoWorld gave you a great review then?
Yes, InfoWorld gave us a massive review.
That's huge. I mean, I was a little young at that time, but I knew of InfoWorld just because I had an entrepreneur mind-ish, 13 years old. But it's still, that's fantastic. And I did hear rumors about that. Did InfoWorld actually get scooped up or put in?
I don't know where they are anymore.
No, okay, because I haven't heard that word in a long time.
Yeah, that's now, awesome. Of course, with the internet and everything else. Yeah. But back then, it was the most powerful magazine in the entire industry.
Wow. And that within the book, Power of Tribes is kind of like almost a diary in a sense of how you built it out.
Well, Power Tribe is a blueprint. It's not a diary. It's a blueprint. So people who buy the book will be able to start at the beginning. They'll be able to understand the most important elements of creating a power tribe is culture. And so I teach people about culture in the book. Now, when I work with clients one-on-one and directly, I literally work with them to build their culture directly before we bring people into the environment. Nice. And that's been very, very powerful as well.
Wow. That's fantastic. So so you gave us kind of a fork in the road moment with when the IRS kind of said, no, it's never going to work. But what flipped the switch though for you to, I understand you looked at other companies, whatnot, and there was a need.
Yeah.
But were you having maybe, how do I ask this, like a backup plan? Just in case you didn't, or you just dove right in with it?
No. Here's what happens, Scott. When you get thrown off of a cliff, you don't have a backup plan. You only have one plan.
Yes, sir.
And that plan is to figure out how to get down safely, whether it's building a parachute or whether it's throwing up a sheet and holding on for dear life, whatever you got to do. And that's how it felt.
Yeah.
Felt like we had one shot. Let's take it. Let's run hard as we can. No options. Make it work.
Love it. And it just sounds like that old Cortez story about burning those ships. You were just like, here we go. I love it. Are you you sold the business eventually then?
Yes, I grew the business. It took 9 years. We grew the business to 250,000 customers, about 100 employees, and Sage PLC, Sage in the UK, came along and bought it. Now they had a US division in Dallas, Texas. And so what they did is they moved me and my family and my management team to Dallas.
Okay.
And that's where we were able to rebuild the business from Dallas. And then later, after my earnout was over, I ended up running Sage as the chief operating officer for 2 years beyond that.
Wow, that's fantastic. And then let's kind of move in. Like, I know my squad, they're big TR fans, Chet Holmes and stuff like that. So what did you work out with when you moved forward into that venture?
Well, what happened was that when I was building Time Slips, there was this very, very bothersome sales guy who constantly pestered me and absolutely would not leave me alone. His name was Chet Holmes. He was trying to sell me advertising space in legal publications. And I kept saying no, and he kept coming back, and I kept saying no. And this went on for 18 months till finally I said, look, if you want to sell me advertising, it has to be this at this price. And he called me back and said, you got a deal. Let's do it.
Wow.
And I ended up buying a double page spread in the center of the publication for the cost of a single black and white ad. And that one ad catapulted the company another 30% in revenue, just having that one ad for 3 issues in California Lawyer Magazine. Well, now, of course, I'm paying attention. Now, Chet and I are getting to be really good friends. And that was the beginning of our friendship. It was like 1989 when that happened.
Wow.
So later, after I sold the company, after I moved into the VC world, helping VC companies scale some of their companies, after I did all these other things, I get a call from Chet. And by the way, Chet and I had stayed friends. We talked every week. But then I get a call from Chet. He goes, I'm really struggling. I need some help. Can you help me? I said, of course. And that was the beginning of me helping Chet. And then within 6 months, Chet had asked me to run his company as president for him.
Okay.
And then within 2 months after that, he put a deal together to not put a deal together, but he arranged a phone call with Tony Robbins and myself and him. And what we did at that point is we came up with our Thursday night calls, Tony, Mitch, and Chet on the phone, and we would talk about how to build the business together. And that became Business Breakthroughs International. Now, Chet was doing pretty well. I'm going to guess he was making maybe 2.5, 3 million a year, which for a coach and consultant type of guy is pretty good.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
But we knew where that could go. Well, once we got Tony involved, once we did our live event, once we brought all those people to Las Vegas, recorded 55 hours of content with these 2 amazing superstars and more, we then were able to scale that company to nearly 30 million before Chet died. And at that point, I was running the company, but as you know, Chet developed stage 4 leukemia and had to go into the hospital. Very, very stressful times for everybody in the company, particularly his family.
Yeah.
And when he passed, I said to myself, I need a break. I'm done here. I don't want to work for the family or work with the family because I originally wanted to work with Chet. That was my goal. So I decided, and I told Tony, I need to exit. And that's exactly what I did. Wow. So I exited the company. And that's when I started writing. I called my old friend, Jay Abraham, and said, Jay, what do? I don't have a job anymore. He said, Mitch, whatever you do, you cannot let what you know go to the grave with you. You must find a way to teach others what you know.
Love that.
I said, well, how do I do that, Jay? And he goes, I don't know, but you got to do it. So I started writing stuff down. And ultimately that became my first book, The Invisible Organization. And that book came out in 2015. And it was basically another blueprint type of book on how to build, run, and manage a virtual organization, which is exactly what I was doing for Chet and Tony.
Right. And it makes you were ahead of that curve for how virtual everything is going now. That's fantastic. Awesome. That's an incredible story. Like how you guys just kind of came together, and whether you believe in God or the universe kind of puts you guys within the same tribe. That's fantastic. So with your family being an entrepreneur, how were they kind of supportive, or, when you left that job, it was kind of secure. I know you went through the downturn and whatnot, but it was kind of secure for a while. But when you left to start off your own kind of Mitch Russo Inc., if you will, lack of a better term, like what were they supportive?
Well, I mean, I wasn't married at the time.
Sure.
So I was just a single guy, and knowing my fate was to have my own company, I had gotten my expenses really, really, really low. So I only had, other than water and electric, I only had one house payment, and I owned my car. So I really didn't have, other than food, I didn't really have any other expenses.
Sure.
So I realized that I could probably go for several years without a salary.
Okay.
Based on my savings, based on my spend rate. And
Nice.
to me, look, I think if you don't have enthusiasm or you're not determined or you're not entrepreneurial, then you're going to quit when you start failing. For people who are driven like you and I, we know that we push through all of the problems because we ultimately know that it's going to work.
Right. And do you enjoy the journey while you're going through it, even the tough times?
I loved it. And yes, there were some very tough times. There were times when we were trying to take care of payroll on credit cards. And my CFO was telling me, you're out of your mind. You're going to go bankrupt if you do this. I said, I don't care. It's not a problem. I know what we're doing. I know it's coming. You don't. That's fine. But we're going to do this. And yeah, it was stressful, but so what? We made payroll and then we released our upgrade and we had millions flooding in the door within 6 weeks.
Love it. And overall, Mitch, what do you think your strengths are, man? And how much do you appreciate them?
Well, the second question is a really good question. The first question is what I have discovered my strengths to be is having a very creative mind, having a systemized way of seeing how things work. And my why is to find a better way. So whenever I work with a client, I'm there to find a better way using my creativity and my systems thinking to get me there. So it's this has driven all of the decisions and all the actions in my life. Being a person who has to find a better way and having the creativity that I have been given to by God. Now that creativity comes out everywhere. I mean, I've written books. I'm an award-winning international landscape photographer. I've done, all these other things. I've helped many people see solutions to problems that never would have occurred to them because I can just see this stuff. I don't know how or why, but it shows up for me and I'm happy to share it. That's what I do.
How about weaknesses?
Weaknesses is I could have a little bit of attention deficit disorder. I am a shiny objects kind of guy and I have to guard against that.
Okay.
So particularly when it comes to marketing. So
at least you're transparent in saying that, man. That's fantastic. So
well, it is.
I am the same way. I'll say, man, that would be great. And then I've really disciplined myself, and I have fantastic advisors that I'll go to them before I'll make any purchase on a shiny object. Now, before I just be like, oh, let's do it. So I feel but lately, as I get a little bit older, my intuitions are more right, so that's excellent. So Mitch, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old Mitch. What kind of knowledge nuggets, that's what we call him here at Time to Shine today. What kind of knowledge nuggets would you be dropping on the 22-year-old Mitch to maybe help him level up, last through, and shorten the learning curve? Not so much change anything, but maybe shorten the learning curve just a little bit.
Well, you see, Scott, I was very lucky. At 17, at 16 years old, I became addicted to heroin. I was mainlining heroin in high school. And I was able to find my way out by going into rehab. And I spent 18 months in rehab. And when I came out of rehab, I was clean, clear, focused, centered, and determined. That is how I left rehab at the age of 18. And I knew exactly what I had to do. I knew exactly where to start. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
All I knew is that I was no longer encumbered by emotional problems or by drugs. And I set on my path to create my life. So if I were to go back.
That is amazing. And you're so transparent with it. Yeah, please go on. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, look, if I go back to talking to that 22-year-old, what I would say is keep going. Just go deeper. Keep going. Go a little slower. Go a little deeper. Just keep going. Because there were many times where I didn't know where I was doing, didn't know where I was going, or felt like I needed to give up. And then there was a lot of, look, I'm not going to tell you different. There was self-doubt.
Sure.
There were times when, I felt like an imposter. Look, I had started a company and grew it to over $10 million. I'd never done that before. Wow. I'm standing in front of a room of 300, 400 people, and I'd never done that before either.
Wow.
And I had to appear as if I had.
Yeah. You go through that time of almost an imposter syndrome, but you just keep pushing through with all the adversity you faced in your life in the past. That actually helped ignite. That's fantastic. And thank you for being transparent. And Mitch, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. How do you want that dash remembered?
I want that dash to be the number of people who I have helped or influenced in the time I was on this planet.
Wow. I'm sorry, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. So what do you think people misunderstand the most about Mitch?
Misunderstand about what?
About Mitch.
Oh, look, I'm a kind of a quiet guy. I don't promote myself a lot. I'm not loud and I'm not boisterous. So I think most people think, as I like them to, I like to sort of stay a little bit on the invisible side. I don't want to stand out. I don't want to appear to be telling people what I own or have or I am or do. I don't paste those things on my Facebook page, and none of that happens.
Right. Love it. I must have the cues from you because I don't either. Unless it's fun and it's with my lady, nothing goes on there. No opinions, no nothing. I love it. I love it.
So you couldn't tell if I'm a Democrat or Republican.
You neither.
Or if you look at any of my social media, because I don't comment. Right, I don't involve myself. I don't participate because, frankly, I don't care.
Right. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I make 2 New Year's resolutions a year since 2009 with my story of losing everything and being homeless, blah, blah. But it's 1, I make someone smile every day.
Yeah.
And 2, unless I've hurt you or disrespected you, I give 0 F's what you think about me.
That's
at
right.
all. Yep. I just don't. But I also don't give you a reason to with opinions, especially being a high level coach. Or even dealing with real estate brokers that are, in high level deals. I don't want people to know my opinions, and there's no reason for them to know. And I love that you said that. So
cool.
Then, Mitch, what is your definition of a life well lived?
A life well lived is one based on staying focused on being happy.
Wow.
If I could stay focused on being happy, then that is a life well lived. I have a daughter. I taught her since the day I could that the most important thing she could do with her life is to find a way to be happy. Everything else is optional.
Yes.
As long as you're not hurting others, as long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're not putting yourself in danger, just be happy. So what does this kid do? She goes to one of the most expensive schools in the country to get a degree in creative writing. Now, think about this. Dad just paid for this huge college education, wanting this child to go out and get a job. And what is she educated in? Creative writing. So, my thinking is, look, I told her to follow her dreams and she did. What's wrong with that? She'll figure it out.
She will.
You know something? She did.
That passion breeds persistence.
You got it.
And gets rid of the procrastination, and you just do it, especially when you burn those boats. And she knows her dad's story of doing that.
Oh, yeah.
So I love it. Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. We are back with my good friend Mitch Russo, and we're going to take him through our leveling up lightning round. And Mitch, you and I could easily talk 30 minutes to an hour, and I hope to do that one day with you. But you got 5 seconds for each one of these questions with 0 explanations. You ready to level up?
Let's do it, baby.
Let's do it. All right, Mitch, what's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Never quit, just pivot.
I love it. Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Meditation every single day in the morning. As soon as I wake up, meditate.
Love it. Love it. If you were to see me walking down the street, not feeling it, you're like, Fergie, man, he looks like he's in his doldrums. What book might you hand me?
The Alchemist.
Yes. Kohilo. I love it. Love it. What's your most commonly used emoji, if any, when you text?
Smile.
Love it. If you could stay one age physically, Mitch, and don't lie to me, please, physically, one age for the rest of your life, keep the knowledge you've garnered and keep gaining wisdom. What age physically would you stay?
I would say 44 years old.
Beautiful. Nicknames growing up?
Just Mitch.
Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Oh, definitely Monopoly.
I love it. Ice cream flavor. What's your go-to ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
Beautiful. There's a sandwich named the Russo. What's on the sandwich?
It's very lean sliced pastrami, corned beef, melted Swiss cheese, and coleslaw.
Beautiful. Time machine. You have access to a time machine for one day. Would you go 20 years in the future or 20 years in the past?
Oh, absolutely in the future.
Love it. Favorite charity and organization like to give your time or money to?
I've been donating for years to the Boston. It's basically a Boston Food Bank.
Boston Food Bank.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Got it. Put that in the show notes, Donnie. Thank you. You can elaborate on this one a little bit, but best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Yeah. It would have to be, you mean the years? Oh, well, I'm sorry.
The decade.
The 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Is that what you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, it would have to be, it would have to be the 80s.
Really? I love it. You making moves in the 80s too, but you were literally making moves in the 80s in the decade of indulgence and decadence and everything else. I grew up in the 80s. So I graduated in 1990, right? So I love that you say that the 80s, because there's so much that happened, and you building and blowing up a business was in the 80s. That's fantastic. Love it. Love it. That's just awesome. So tell me, Mitch, how can we find you, my friend?
Very easy. Just go to mitchrusso360.com, mitchrusso360.com.
I absolutely love that website too, because it's like you open it up and you have a plethora of other resources and sites to go through. And for my fellow coaches out there, he has a product called Client Folio, which I absolutely love. And I'll be putting together a product demonstration to go out very soon to all my coaches within my network. And Mitch, can you tell us a little bit about your reasoning for putting that together and how it can help fellow coaches?
Sure. Well, the bottom line is that I really just needed coaching software, and I was a busy coach. I am a busy coach. And problem is that when I started doing research and looking at different products, I discovered that no coaching software does what I wanted. There's some that do a little of it, some that do a little of that. And anything that even resembled what I needed was hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month and hours of learning curve to go through, of which I have no patience for.
Wow.
So I decided to do what I think every good entrepreneur should do. When you find a problem that has not been solved, I solved it. And I hired a team. I designed the product. I wrote the spec, and I financed it being built. And it is unbelievable. It is incredible.
It is awesome.
And it's only $29.97 a month. It's very inexpensive.
Sure.
And it runs your whole company, unlimited clients. It does basically everything a coach needs, without the stuff that I don't need to build. Like I don't need to build a credit card system, and you already have that. I don't need to build an LMS. You already have that too.
Right.
I focus on the most highest value, which is dealing with and tracking your clients' accountability questions, your goals and settings, sending homework, following up, keeping people accountable, and making sure that you as the coach are spending the least amount of time possible on admin.
Love it. I love it. And it does. It's such a time saver because I can send the notes from the coaching session over to the client. Everything is secure, and that's fantastic. So thank you from a fellow coach and other coaches out there for putting together such a great product. And squad, we went through a little bit earlier about the power of tribes, and anybody that puts in any of our social links, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, whatnot, Culture Club. It's all about building that culture. And with a little, since he said the 80s, we'll say Culture Club. If you put a Culture Club in any comment, then I will purchase the book, and Mitch has been gracious enough to sign it for us and get it out to you. So thank you so much for doing that, Mitch. And if you don't mind, please leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Well, I mean, there's so many things, but the most important thing is look up. No, don't look up and look forward. Don't look back and look down. And so what I mean by that is simply stay focused on your future, your bright future, and don't let anything derail you. If it does, simply pivot out of the way and keep going.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. And squad, we literally had a free master class with somebody that has built $1 million businesses. I'm going to read a little bit of some of the stuff that I wrote down because I have pages and pages of notes. I can't go through all of them, but he did say that if you don't pay, you don't pay attention. And that makes so much sense. If you got skin in the game, you seem to work a little bit differently. He comes from a place of a creative mind, systemize to see how things work, find a better way. And that's exactly what he does with anything he touches. His favorite color is gold. And I'm going to nickname him King Midas, man. Mitch King Midas Russo, because, everything he touches turns to gold. That's just fantastic. He's going to remind you to keep going, go deeper. And if you don't know, get your asking gear. Okay. Ask people that have been there and they help you get there. He's going to be remembered as somebody that helped the max number of people. And he wants to remind you that the life well lived is stay focused on being happy, because really nothing else matters, man. Okay. He's a teacher and also kind of a mentor in a way. And like we say, the more you mentor, the more immortal you become. And that's the way Mitch has set himself up, become immortal, to be remembered. Again, he laid out that blueprint in Power of Tribes, the book. And he wants you to look up and look forward and not backing down. Okay. Because so many people have a foot in the past, a foot in the future, and they piss all over the present. He wants you to stay focused, but keep your head up and moving forward. And Mitch, I'm so blessed that you came on. Thank you so much. You level up your health, you level up your wealth, you earned your varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. I can't wait to collaborate with you in the future. I'm just so blessed, man. I love your guts, brother.
Thank you, Scott.
We'll talk soon.
You got it.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you're a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.